There's numerous volumes we can look at within the roads mode. Let's start by going to area volume, cumulative volumes. I want to show you the difference between your cumulative and your Masshaul volumes. You don't particularly have to calculate the volumes for the entire road. You could go and specify a start and an end chainage. So for explanation purposes, I'm going to go and put in a start chainage of 695, end chainage of 705. With the Masshaul, you'll see that you have the option to specify a start volume. That start volume would be any arbitrary item such as borrow material. You can go and specify the topsoil to strip, which is the depth of the topsoil stripped from the cross section before your volume calculation. You can go and specify the road prep volume, and this is according to your Colto spec. And if you're not quite sure what that looks like, there I've got an example. This is applicable to your dual and your single carriageway. If we look at the single carriageway on the right hand side, when the layer works of the road falls beneath the ground line, then we use the layer work line to determine your road bed. If you look on the left hand side here, whenever the ground line is beneath the layer works of the road, we use the ground line to determine the road bed. Closing that, and then specifying your compaction or bulking factor. For explanation purposes, let's go and put in 95. Remember that this is the factor applied to the calculated cut volumes. Anything greater than 100 implies bulking, whereas anything less than 100 would imply compaction. Here you can go and specify between which two layers, road layers, you'd like to use. And if you click on the down arrow and you don't have additional layers here, you may have to go and solidify your layer works. Alternatively, if you prefer to use the newer functionality, you can just go and specify the subgrade option. And in that case, it will be between your ground level and the bottom of your template layer works. Now remember this diagram, because this is also used in your report quantities functionality, where whatever you go and specify here per road, the volume is calculated using these settings over here. Click on calculate and specify where you want the result. If you're wondering why this dialog comes up again, it may be that you want to put in certain chainage values with different topsoil to strip and compaction factors, depending on what your ground conditions are. At the same time, you could also go and leave out a section of road that may be a bridge as an example. If you look at this icon over here, that would lead directly to the help file explaining what your results are going to be. More about this a bit later. Closing the help file, clicking on results to output. Remember, we've just worked out the cumulative volumes. This calculates the volumes yielding a cumulative total of cut and fill. It's normally used to access the amount of material in individual cuts and fills. If we look over here, you've got your basic, and that is before any topsoil and compaction is taken into account. Here we got the cut volumes, and here we got the fill volumes, and then the cumulative volumes. Between chainage 695 and 696, the cut volume basic, and that is excluding the topsoil and compaction, is 5. Then you take the topsoil into account, the compaction into account, and you're left with a final there of 1.8. Now remember, we've got only one decimal place here, so it's rounded off to the nearest 0.1. Same applies to the full volumes, where you got your basic, topsoil and final, and then you got cut for that chainage and the full for that chainage. If you look at the values individually, here we've got 1.8 as a cut. In the next chainage range, again we got 1.8. So in total you got 3.6. Again 1.8, so you take the 1.8 plus the 3.6 and you're left with 5.4. and so on. That applies to the fill as well. Going back to area volume, selecting Masshaul volumes this time, leaving everything as is, click on calculate. Going through the process again. And here you can see the difference. So we've got a cut of 1.5, and that is your total cut of 1.8 minus your total fill of 0.3. So we're left with 1.5. There you can see the difference between your cumulative and your Masshaul volumes. At the bottom here we've got some additional volumes. These are the unadjusted volumes for your total cut and fill, and then your volumes for your compaction and your topsoil. As mentioned before, if you'd like some additional information with regards to that, with this dialog open, you can either press the letter I, or you could go and press F1 on your keyboard. Then go and select volume calculations at the bottom. There we got the cut volumes, your basic, your topsoil, your compaction, and your final. And if you look at the results explain what the unadjusted volumes are. In addition to that, we also give you a diagram to explain the difference.